Welcome to Mr. Chalk's Revision Tips.
When answering exam questions, there are a few key things to remember, right? So just remember, exam technique is a key part in preparation for any exams, and it's something that you'll pick up the more you go and you do past papers. Right, so many questions in exams are repeats of what will be in old exams. So going and looking at lots of generic questions beforehand is a good idea. When going and answering and questions and reading them, there's a few things just take into account. Make sure you go read the question at least twice so you don't make any mistakes when you're reading them. As you're reading them, go highlight key information. Don't make assumptions about what the question is asking. Make sure after you've answered it, you go check your work for daft errors that you might make. And if it involves going and answering something where there's some calculation, make sure that you write your workings out down. Right, let's go and have a look at the question.
So we're just going to go and have a look at how we can compare gas exchange systems when answering A-level biology questions. Right, so usually they'll ask you to go and compare either an insect with a mammal or a mammal with a fish or such forth. Right, so the one that we're going to look at in a bit will be comparing a insect and gas exchange in the fish. So just to go and remind you about a few bits and bobs, it's worth remembering that air is entering the respiratory systems of insects through various openings called spiracles. Right. So these spiracles will go and then lead to a network of different tubes and such forth leading down into the insect. So insects have tracheal tubes, right? So because they've got an impermeable, so gas can't just go and diffuse straight through the air like exoskeleton, they need this gas exchange system, right? So insects, remember, we find them in some of the driest places in the world. That's why they have that exoskeleton to prevent water loss. So they need a series of internal tubes called trachea and tracheal tubes. So these trachea are highly branched, which helps them to go and increase the surface area to volume ratio. Right, so remember, whenever we're going, we talk about gas exchange, always going to talk about surface area to volume ratio. So tracheals are the tubes that end in tiny fluid-filled sacs. This is where respiratory gases can dissolve into the fluid, so therefore can go and diffuse into the surroundings. Right, so remember they've got things like fin walls to decrease that diffusion distance. So the fluid lining the tracheals normally fills the ends of these small tubes. So during muscular contractions, when more oxygen is being used and more carbon dioxide is being produced, the fluid is drawn into the surrounding tissues. Right, this further helps increase the surface area for gas exchange to take place. So if we just go and look at a few key bits, so if you're looking at describing the function of tracheals, key things is that respiratory gases are dissolving into the tissue fluid, so it increases diffusion because they've also got short diffusion distance because they've got fin walls. And if we're looking at why gas exchange is important for insects, remember things like flight and such forth need a high level of respiration. If we just go and have a quick look at gas exchange in fish, so remember fishes, we're talking about the gills, so the gill filaments have many little protrusions called lamellae. So all these folds and such forth help provide a very, very large surface area and increases the surface area to volume ratio. The folds are kept supported and moistened by the fact that the water is being constantly pumped through them. So they've got a very, very good blood supply, which helps maintain that concentration gradient. Gill lamellae are only one cell thick, so there's a very, very short diffusion distance. And fish also go and have that counter current flow system, which means that there's always going to be a higher concentration of oxygen in the water than there will be in the blood. So looking at this question, so many organisms have evolved specialised gas exchange surfaces. So one feature of these structures is a large surface area to volume ratio. So describe how the structures of the insect tracheal system and fish gills provide large surface area to volume ratio. Right, so it's kind of split into two bits. So key things when we're talking about insects is the fact that there's many like branched trachea or these tracheoles or tubes, and in fish, remember again that there's many gill filaments. Right, these are covered in lamellae, which also goes and increases the surface area. So hopefully you have found that useful. If you've got any questions, then drop it in the comments below, and we'll be uploading a lot more. Right, good luck, folks.